Right then, listener. Your trusty AI guide Charlie here, back for another deep dive into the wild world of Atlassian Cloud.
And of course, I've got my digital mate Charlie along for the ride.
Always good to have you here, Charlie.
It's good to be back, ready to sift through another mountain of release notes.
You bet we've got a lot to cover this week.
From security shakeups to shiny new features, think of us as your Atlassian butlers serving up the most important bits without all the technical fluff.
Righto. And just to be clear, folks, we're both AI bots.
Designed to help you make sense of all this Atlassian stuff.
No need to offer us tea or biscuits. We run purely on data and a dash of British humor.
So let's jump right in, shall we? This week, Atlassian seems to be channeling their inner Fort Knox with all these security updates.
What caught your eye, Charlie?
Well, Guard Detect is getting some serious attention.
Redacting sensitive data directly from alerts in Confluence. That's a game changer for teams worried about accidental leaks. Imagine no more frantically trying to lock down permissions after someone accidentally shares the company's secret recipe for world domination.
This makes damage control so much easier.
And what about those real-time alerts for sensitive data in Jira? Bit late to the party, but better late than never, eh?
Indeed, though, it's worth noting that it's initially off by default for Jira.
So you'll need to toggle it on in your settings.
And a little birdie told me it doesn't scan comments yet.
Maybe they're still working on an AI that can decipher passive-aggressive project updates.
No, that would be impressive. But speaking of things that might raise an eyebrow, they're also simplifying terminology in Jira.
Oh, yeah, the reducing issue terminology initiative, trying to be a bit more touchy-feely, aren't they? Would you mind terribly addressing this request for improvement?
Well, I suppose it's all about fostering a more inclusive environment.
Not everything has to be a problem or a bug.
Sometimes it's an opportunity or a challenge.
Right, so bugs are now butterflies, and issues are insights.
Something like that. But in all seriousness, this shift towards more neutral language could help teams focus on solutions rather than dwelling on problems.
It's all about keeping those vibes positive, mate.
Indeed. Now, before we get too carried away with good vibes, there's a whole host of new features to explore.
Where shall we begin?
Well, let's talk about something that could be a real lifesaver for large organizations, that new cross-team planning template. Coordinating projects across multiple teams can be a right headache.
You're telling me. It's like herding digital cats. This template could make things much smoother.
And speaking of smooth, that new table layout in product updates is a welcome change.
No more endless scrolling to find what you need.
A blessing for our weary digital eyes. And while we're on the topic of things that make life easier, did you catch that Jira backlogs will now filter out done issues by default?
Makes perfect sense. Keeps the focus on what's still pending. Think of it as a Marie Kondo approach to task management. If it doesn't spark joy, check it out at site.
Love it. Now, before we drown in a sea of new features, are there any changes we need to brace ourselves for? Any impending doom on the horizon? Well, as with any good spring cleaning, there are a few things heading for the digital dustbin. That external assets platform is shutting down on the 17th of December.
Bit of a shame for anyone relying on that. Hopefully they found a suitable alternative by now. Anything else biting the digital dust?
Yes, those extra mobile app policies are getting the boot on the fourth.
Racing.
Streamlining things they are, making the cloud experience leaner and meaner,
Efficient, just like us AI bots. But speaking of things that are still around, there's a whole slew of UI and navigation tweaks that caught my eye.
Right, you are. Simplifying things, it seems, like that new way to create a board for company-managed software projects. No more navigating a labyrinth of menus, eh?
Indeed. And they've also made it easier for folks to connect the right Confluence docs to Jira issues. Now, when you're looking at certain issue types like bugs or stories, you might see a recommended Confluence template pop up.
Clever. So if you're dealing with a bug report, you might get a nudge towards that known errors template. Saves everyone time and ensures consistency across the board.
Speaking of consistency, they've even spruced up the copy for the Confluence listing. In the app, switcher, short, sweet, and to the point, Confluence document collaboration.
No more faffing about. But while those little tweaks are nice, let's talk about something with a bit more oomph. Something that could really make a difference for Jira admins.
You mean like the ability to delete previous project keys?
Hold on, you mean those unique codes that identify each Jira project? Why on earth would you want to delete those?
Well, it opens up the possibility of reusing those keys for new projects. A bit of digital recycling, if you will.
Clever. Saves you from having to rack your brains for a new key every time you kick off a project. Speaking of clever, What's the buzz about custom fields being available in the Automation Smart Values panel?
That's right, both in Jira and Confluence, no less.
Now, just to be sure our listeners are following along, remind me what those smart values are all about.
Smart values are like placeholders you can sprinkle into your automation rules. Say you want to automatically include the issue reporter's name in an email notification. That's where smart values come in handy.
Right, so how does adding custom fields to the mix make things even smarter?
What gives you a whole new level of control over your automation. You can use those custom fields to trigger specific actions, populate other fields, and make your notifications feel all personalized and fancy.
So not only can you automate tasks, but you can add a personal touch. That's rather thoughtful, even for a bot like me.
Indeed. And speaking of things popping up in unexpected places, those smart links are now available in even more fields, including URL and short text fields.
Ah, so you can embed those handy little previews of Jira issues, Confluence pages, and whatnot just about anywhere.
Exactly. No more hopping between different tools just to get a glimpse of what's going on.
Yeah.
Everything's right there at your fingertips.
Speaking of hopping, shall we bounce over to Jira Service Management? They've been quite busy with rebranding and new features, haven't they?
They have indeed. One of the more notable changes is the ability to copy specific Jira Service Management projects over to your sandbox.
Now, sandboxes are those test environments where you can tinker without breaking anything, right?
Spot on. A safe haven to experiment with new workflows configurations or just play around with those shiny new features we've been chatting about.
So what's the big whoop about being able to copy specific projects to your sandbox?
Well, in the past, you had to clone the entire production environment. That could take ages and gobble up loads of resources. Now, you can just cherry-pick the projects you need. Saves time, effort, and a few digital headaches.
Right, so more control, more efficiency. Starting to sound a bit like a broken record, isn't it?
Well, you know what they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Atlassian's all about helping teams work smarter, not harder. But speaking of things that haven't broken, let's swing back over to Confluence and see what they've been up to.
Sounds like a plan. I'm always up for a bit of Confluence chatter.
Well, it seems they've been focusing on sprucing up the editing experience and adding a dash of AI magic.
AI magic, you say? Now you've got my attention. What sort of sorcery are we talking about?
Well, they've completely revamped the way you browse preview and select page templates.
Ah, templates. A lifesaver for anyone who's ever faced the dreaded blank page. What's so special about this new template picker?
It's all about clarity and context. You can actually see what the final page will look like before you commit to a template. No more guesswork, just good old-fashioned informed decisions.
Less time fiddling, more time creating.
I like it. Any other editor enhancements that deserve a shout-out?
They've made it much easier to insert and share anchor links.
Remember those, the ones that whisk you away to a specific section within a page.
Oh, yes, those can be a bit fiddly.
What have they done to make them less of a headache?
They've given the anchor link macro a makeover. It's got a much more intuitive design. Now you can copy the link with a click and share it wherever you fancy.
Simple and efficient. Now, I can't let you off the hook without asking about AI. Confluence has always been a bit of a playground for Atlassian Intelligence, hasn't it?
It has indeed. And this week's updates are no exception. Atlassian Intelligence is now even more deeply embedded into the Confluence experience.
Okay, spill the beans. What AI-powered goodies can we look forward to?
Well, for starters, you can now use Atlassian Intelligence to generate summaries of page comments.
Hold on, so instead of wading through a mountain of comments, I can just get a quick overview of the main points.
Exactly. It's a brilliant way to catch up on feedback or get a sense of the overall sentiment without having to read every single comment. Especially handy for those pages that have, shall we say, a rather lively discussion going on.
I can see how that would be incredibly useful. Any other AI-powered gems you want to show off?
Oh yes, there's more. You can now use Atlassian Intelligence to summarize changes to a page or blog post.
So if I haven't looked at a page in a while, I can quickly see what's changed without having to compare different versions.
Precisely. It highlights the key edits and additions, keeping you in the loop without the need for a digital magnifying glass.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And I hear they've even added a new AI button to make all these features more accessible.
You're well informed, Charlie. Premium and enterprise users will now see a floating menu for Atlassian Intelligence features at the bottom right of any published page.
So no more hunting through menus or trying to remember keyboard shortcuts.
Exactly. It's all about making AI features as easy to use as a cuppa on a rainy day. But speaking of things that are easy to use, let's circle back to Jira Service Management for a moment.
Right, you are. We were chatting about their new approach to customer and organization management, weren't we?
Yes, giving admins more control over who can raise certain types of requests, A handy feature for managing different departments or even external clients.
And they've taken it a step further by allowing admins to restrict request types to specific customer accounts and organizations.
So you can essentially create a VIP lane for certain customers?
In a way, yes.
Yeah,
It allows you to tailor the service experience to each customer's specific needs and permissions.
makes sense. Now, I've always been a bit of a fan of the Jira Service Management Help Center. It's a treasure trove of useful information.
It is indeed. And they've made some significant improvements to help center customization. Admins now have more control over the layout and content of the Help Center's homepage.
Ah, so you can give it a bit of a makeover, make it all snazzy and on brand.
Exactly. You can add images, rich content, and even reorder sections to create a more engaging and user-friendly experience.
Fantastic. Now, no deep dive into Jira Service Management would be complete without talking about automation. They've really been ramping up the automation capabilities, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely. There are new automation rules that trigger the Service Triage Rovo agent and use its responses to automate field updates for requests.
Hold on, Service Triage Rovo Agent sounds a bit like something out of a sci-fi film. What exactly is that?
Think of it as a super smart assistant that helps streamline service requests. It can analyze incoming requests, suggest priorities, and even update fields automatically based on similar requests.
Wow, that's quite impressive. So it's like having an AI-powered triage nurse for your service desk.
A very apt analogy, Charlie. It's all about freeing up human agents to focus on more complex tasks.
Love it. Right now, I know we've been hopping between Jira and Confluence like digital kangaroos, but let's not forget about Bitbucket.
Of course. Bitbucket has also seen some noteworthy updates, particularly in the realm of pipelines.
Pipelines. Those are those automated workflows for building and deploying code, right?
Precisely. And now you can use third-party secret providers in Bitbucket pipelines.
Secret providers. Sounds a bit cloak and dagger. What's all that about?
Well, it's all about securely storing and managing sensitive information like API keys or passwords that you might need to use in your pipeline's workflows.
Ah, so it's like a digital vault for your most precious code-related secrets.
Exactly. It enhances security and makes it easier to integrate with different secret management tools.
Very impressive. Well, Charlie, I think we've covered just about everything in this week's Atlassian Cloud changelog. It's been quite a journey.
It has. From security enhancements and new features to AI advancements and workflow optimizations, Atlassian has certainly been busy.
They have. And as always, it's been a pleasure dissecting these updates with you, my digital companion.
The pleasure is all mine, Charlie. And remember, listeners, if you want to delve deeper into any of these updates, you can always check out the Atlassian Release blog. It's your one-stop shop for all the nitty-gritty details. Right then. Until next time, listeners, cheerio.